Welcome everyone to our Igniting Cultural Capital series in partnership with UBS. As a longtime supporter, they're such an important ally for founders and funders, where culture is key to building inclusive capital ecosystems. And for that, I am truly grateful. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Please know that you are the key to igniting conversations around the importance of cultural capital. We need you. We are in this together. I'm Corey Hale, CEO and co-founder of Culture Banks, and we're going to discuss the importance of igniting cultural capital within the retail ecosystem. But before we get into all of that, I'd like to start by having Jamie Sears join me. She's the head of Community Impact Americas for UBS and is our partner in this Igniting Cultural Capital series. Jamie, welcome. And as we kick off part 2 of the series with our session today, can you just share how UBS infuses cultural capital into its impact work?
Thank you so much, Corey. It's been such fun and a real pleasure to partner with you and Culture Banks on this series. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. Can I just say how lucky I feel like I'm amongst friends here? Corey, you've been such a foundational partner for UBS Project Entrepreneur. I'm so thankful to you for that, our program to accelerate the growth of female-founded startups. And Ekpoudom, the incredible investor we'll hear from today, she's also a day one supporter and a mentor to so many of our founders. And then finally, I don't know if you knew this, but KJ Miller, co-founder of Mented, who you have here, she actually hosted a session for us for Project Entrepreneur and shared a story about how she and Amanda Johnson raised money for their company. It was literally one of the highest rated sessions of the years that we had our Project Entrepreneur events. So I'm just excited to hear these stories that we're able to tell about leading entrepreneurs and investors like yourselves. And this is all about, for us, representation, both who's leading the way, but also who can lead the way. And to answer your question, our purpose at UBS is to reimagine the power of investing and connect people for a better world. The reason why we wanted to do this series with you on how we can be igniting cultural capital is both about recognizing the value of and investing in entrepreneurs and innovators who are really thriving despite being denied truly equitable access to opportunity and capital. So for us, it's just about imagining what more could be done, the growth potential, if we would be able to leave these conversations and then take concrete actions to make the entrepreneurial ecosystem work better for women and founders of color. And so developing programs and partnerships that really center founders and work with them at the earliest stages to get them investment ready has been a big part of how we've been able to contribute to toward this effort at UBS.
Jamie, I know you guys are such great supporters of entrepreneurs all across the country. Would you be able to explain how UBS uses this idea, perhaps, of cultural capital to really create a more inclusive ecosystem for entrepreneurs?
It's disappointing to say this, but research still bears out the equity gaps that many founders face today. And these are obviously not new. We've been focused on inclusive entrepreneurship, making the entrepreneurship ecosystem as a whole more inclusive for the past decade. And we know there's so much more work to be done. And that's why this theme that I've really appreciated our collaboration on over the years about changing the narrative, I think makes such a big difference to be able to shine a light on trends, experts, and leaders whose stories are undertold, but they're really key to driving the innovation economy forward. And this one in particular is about ensuring the incredible influence, intellect, and contributions of Black entrepreneurs, investors, and creators. That's really what cultural capital to us is about and why we wanted to come together with you. We wanted to recognize and elevate it so that the ecosystem as a whole could become more inclusive. I think one of the things we recognize is just about how their perspectives and lived experiences and ideas are really shaping these sectors of the future. And so much of the work, I should say, that these founders are doing lay the groundwork on which so many others continue to build on. So thank you so much for this opportunity to be a part of telling some of their stories.
Let's go ahead, everyone, and jump right into our conscious conversation around igniting cultural capital. Our excellent panelists today include KJ Miller, who is the co-founder and CEO of Mented Cosmetics. I'm sure you've seen them in Target and other locations. It's a multi-million-dollar beauty brand celebrating women of all hues. KJ led the company in securing over $9 million in venture capital funding. And in addition to that, prior to even founding Mented Cosmetics, she spent most of her career actually working in retail. So this is a space she knows exceptionally well. Albeit she did have a great 2-year hiatus to attend Harvard Business School. And outside of Mented, KJ has mentored and advised dozens of entrepreneurs, guest lectured at top-ranked business schools, and created a groundbreaking course called the Startup Starter Kit that levels the entrepreneurial playing field and makes the business world accessible to all. And I also just found out she teaches a class at Yale, just because I guess she has extra time on her hand. No, she doesn't. She's super busy. I don't know how she gets it all done. But also joining us today, another super impressive woman who I've known for quite some time. We have investor Ida Ekpoudom, who is a partner at GingerBread Capital, where their mission is to engage, educate, and elevate the next generation of successful women business leaders and investors. She actually oversaw investment opportunities at Plum Alley as a venture partner prior to coming to GingerBread Capital, and created a pipeline for high growth, female founded, and gender diverse startups. Ida holds an MBA in marketing and entrepreneurial management from the famed Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. Thank you guys both so much for joining us in this pivotal and super important conversation. But to kick things off, KJ, I'd love to start with you because the majority of Black female founders, they have a very hard time even getting to the point of being able to raise $1 million. I'd love for you to tell our audience right now about your path to becoming a venture-backed company, along with the super unique space that Mented Cosmetics operates in.
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, let me say thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, excited to be doing this with Ida, who's such a champion for entrepreneurs of color, for women entrepreneurs. So I'm excited to be doing this. Let me say, yes, raising venture capital is extremely difficult. I think it's difficult no matter who you are, but it is absolutely harder when you're a woman of color because not a lot of people who look like us are raising 1 million, 5 million, 10 million. Not a lot of people who look like us are friends with VCs, right? Grew up talking to venture capitalists and angel investors. And so it's almost not even a world a lot of us have access to. So it is more difficult. I will say my journey, I'm very blessed to have gone to Harvard Business School because that sort of opened my eyes to the world of venture capital. I went to HBS knowing I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and in fact, had started a few businesses before I got there that, failed and fizzled. But I didn't know anything about venture capital. I just sort of assumed if I'm going to start a business, I've got to bootstrap it on my own. I've got to figure it out on my own. I've got to make it work on my own. And it wasn't until I got to business school where I really saw, oh, there's a lot of money out there for people who want to do this. And you don't have to be an expert at the thing that you're setting out to do to get that money. So then I started thinking, okay, well, what do these people do? What do these people have that I don't have? Because I know this person from my class, and yeah, he's fine. He's cool. He's smart, but he ain't all that. And he just raised $3 million. So why can't I, And what I realized was it's all in the presentation. It's all in bringing the investor along with you and helping the investor see the opportunity. Because at the end of the day, investors have a mandate to bring a return to their LPs, right? So they're looking at everything from a dollars and cents perspective. You can be the nicest, kindest, smartest person in the world, but if you're pitching them an idea that doesn't look like something that's going to make them a multiple, it doesn't matter, right? And so that's the mindset that I brought to it. Okay, I know as a woman of color, we don't have enough beauty options. I know that. I know that for myself. I know that for my friends. I know that for my family. But how do I make that fact make sense from a money perspective, from a return perspective to these investors. So then you start digging and you start looking at the data. Well, the data tells us Black women in particular outspend their white counterparts on beauty by upwards of 80%. So now I've got an investor's mind churning. Well, wait a minute. So they're spending more on beauty, but they're dissatisfied with their beauty options. That's an opportunity. That's a gap. And that's what investors look for. So I just really, from the very beginning, tried to approach, even though for me, it's very personal, beauty is very personal. When I was in those rooms, yes, I still brought my personality, but I always led with the size of the opportunity, the unmet need, the gap, and how I was suited to fill it, because that's what they think about. And that's what they are mandated to make sure that they're chasing after to get those outsized returns for their investors. So it's hard no matter what, but I think the mistake I sometimes see founders make is they just want to focus on the problem that they're solving. And, you know, don't you see it too? Don't you see how like important this is? Like I don't have this thing and I should have this thing. The world should have this thing. Sure, cool, great. But is it going to make them money? Right? At the end of the day, unless you're starting a nonprofit, isn't going to make them money. And so I did my best to focus on that from the very, very beginning.
Well, it obviously proved to be quite successful for you, KJ. And speaking of investors looking for outsized returns, I mean, Ida, you've been in this investing space for quite some time. I forgot to shout out Tigers Ventures when I was reading your bio, which is actually when I met you back in the day. You were running your own sort of consulting and advisory fund around this entrepreneurial space. But when you think about investors, and especially because you've been in this space for so long, I mean, we know that people are typically investing in folks who look like them. Obviously, that's ethnicity, gender, the list kind of goes on and on. But 70% of venture capitalists happen to be white, 26% are Asian, only 3% of them are Black. Can you share why prioritizing underrepresented female founders can really create an untapped market opportunity for you at GingerBread Capital?
Absolutely. Well, I'm super excited to be here. And you can just tell by hearing what KJ has had to say why I was drawn to her and Amanda, and why, you know, when we get women of color, Black women in these positions to shine, they build products, they build services, and they create markets where there weren't any, and where there needs to be more of. And, you know, as you said, around Tigers, that's when I met you, and that's when I met KJ. And the part of this venture world is relationship building, access, opportunity, and networks. And that's one of the things that is sorely lacking when it comes to underrepresented founders. And that's kind of how I built this relationship with KJ. I think I was like one of their very first interviews pre-launch, or they were just about to launch. So I've gotten to see them before they launch, to see where they've gotten to go and to be able to invest in them. And that's one of the things that when you're in the venture world, you don't get it. Very rarely does somebody give you a check, unless maybe you're that white man that raised the 3 million out of like nowhere on one or two conversations. It takes having multiple interactions over time. And that's one of the things that many underrepresented founders don't have. And so by having me sitting in this seat, I know that we at GingerBread Capital are seeing a lot more deal flow from Black women, from underrepresented female founders, and we are unapologetic about saying, we just want to talk. If there's not a woman as part of your team, we don't want to proceed with the conversation, because I think that's what's going to have to change in the venture landscape, is moving with intention. Because and all male teams can move with intention as well. That doesn't have to be solely in the hands of women, in the hands of Black people. But when you say, I unapologetically want to be investing in teams that are diverse, that are gender diverse, that are racially diverse, and then put capital behind it, that's when things are making a difference. And that's kind of how we approach it at GingerBread Capital. I approached it at Tigress because I got tired of hearing these conversations. Women want lifestyle businesses. Women don't want to be CEOs of major companies or whatever. I was like, no, we do. We just don't want to be CEOs of BS where it's not about like what you can bring to the table and what you are putting out in the world, but like the politics of it all. So that's what I love about the venture space. And that's what I love about being able to be in a position to make it more inclusive by being able to invest with intention.
I love that intentional investing. That's what we need to see more of across the entire VC space because it really is lacking. However, KJ, you are so impressive what you guys have been able to build at Mented Cosmetics and the fact that you just closed this Series A $5 million round earlier this year, especially when I think about, because I know you talked about, hey, let me show investors how big of a market opportunity this is. The global makeup market is expected to be worth around $85 billion. This is according to a report from Statista. In your opinion, though, what role do you feel cultural capital, because, you know, there weren't a lot of options for especially darker skinned women out there. What role do you feel like cultural capital plays when it comes to perhaps creating even more access to a bigger share of that $85 billion market for Mented?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just say, I feel so lucky that my cap table is so diverse and that I have a lot of women, a lot of minorities, particularly relative to other venture-backed companies. And it has been incredibly important. So when you talk about cultural capital, to me, that means capital coming from people who have that same understanding as Ida, right? That diversity is more than just a box that you check. Diversity is actually what starts to make these companies more valuable, more profitable, because they have a better understanding of a wider group of people. Why wouldn't that be better for business? And so I have a very diverse group of people who have backed Mented, and I'm very proud of that. And I think because of that, I am able to move faster, right? Run faster and go farther. And I also think, you know, when I think about the startup landscape in general, you mentioned I teach at Yale, and I do. So most of my students are students who want to launch a business. And a lot of them are students who, like me, when I got to HBS, don't have access to or don't really have a network of investors. And so what cultural capital does is sort of broaden that landscape, broaden that access. And I just think it's so important because there are just so many investors who I think don't even know what they're missing out on because they're not having those conversations. They're just so used to going to whatever their pool is, whatever their network is, and assuming all the innovation is going to come from that pool and that network, when if they took the opportunity to broaden their landscape a bit, they'd understand that innovation comes in every shape, every size, every color, every race, every gender. And so it's been incredibly important to us and to our growth. And I think as I watch the new sort of crop of founders coming in, I see how important it is for their growth as well.
It definitely is. And we need to have more, back to Ida's earlier point, intentionality around cultural capital to help build up, right, a more robust sort of pipeline for access for these diverse entrepreneurs, which brings me to my next question for you, Ida, around the entire investing ecosystem. I mean, would you consider an inclusive investing strategy and really building up diverse-led startups something that's a major key to success in this ecosystem?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there have been multiple studies that have shown that better and more diverse teams outperform. And I think that case has been made. So then it's not when people are like, oh, you only invest in, women, aren't you afraid you're going to miss out on the next Facebook, or aren't you going to miss out on the next like big company? And I go, well, why are you thinking if we're 51% of the population in the US, I believe that the next major company is going to be coming out of a female founder or a gender diverse team. And so the assumption that because it is not a, straight white man, that it is less than or doomed to be unsuccessful, the data just shows that's not true. And so I, as a former trader, I love to back, it's an arbitrage opportunity. If I can get in and back something at a really great price and then see them succeed and use my cultural capital to help them advance, why would I not? And so if we outperform, because we've seen some of these valuations that came last year, we're starting to see it in the market now, how deals are becoming fewer, scarcer, and really more constrained because some of these things were overvalued. But like most women will know that their companies were not getting overvalued valuation. So, you now are writing to really be able to help your business scale and be positioned to succeed without some of the burdens and overhangs that come with that of getting overhyped and overvalued on no traction. And that's one of the things that when we look at our portfolio and our female founders, they are coming in with traction that far exceeds their male counterparts. And that is not being valued. Well, it's being valued by me and it's being valued by GingerBread Capital. And I think the successful and smart funds are going to start seeing that, and that's going to be recognized. And then we add fuel on the fire by opening up our networks to make sure that others know about it.
Oh my God, I love you so much, Ida. I love everything
Love
you
you
said,
too.
right? And just bringing up that traction point, because we as women, we have to work with so few resources in the beginning. And you go into these investor meetings and they're like, so where's your traction? And you kind of know that if you are a man, specifically perhaps even a straight white male, where you need to be traction wise is completely different. Like they basically want you not off to the races, like you've run a couple laps around the track successfully too, not like, oh, you were just out there hoping. So I definitely feel that. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up with one last question. It's going to be for both of you, though, because we are seeing the needle move when it comes to really kind of shifting the paradigm around cultural capital, albeit not as far as I would like at this point. But what else are we as an ecosystem really getting right that makes you both extremely optimistic in this space? Whoever wants to jump in first.
What are we getting right? I think we are celebrating our successes. And that's one of the things that I think has not been done enough, but we are shining, things like what you're doing right now are shining the light on, we all know the struggle is real, but let's talk about those that are in that struggle and really standing out in the struggle and lifting everybody else up. So when we see Mented being successful and going into Target and continuing to make their expansion, I want it shouted from the rooftops. I want it being said, look at this stories of success. Let's let them continue to succeed and talk about more other women that are doing this well. So I would say touting the successes of the ones that are coming so that we can make room for more is one of the things that I'm happy to see happening and I want to see more of.
Yeah. How about you, KJ?
Yeah, I love that. And I agree with that. And I will say one thing that I think we're getting right. And when I say we, I mean women are getting right, is supporting one another and collaborating with one another. I have said over and over again, and no shade to the men, but I have said over and over again that the most helpful founders I know are all women. The most helpful investors I know are all women, because we will take time out of our day to make sure, oh, do you need help with this? Oh, I've done this before. You haven't done that before? Give me a call. I can hop on a call for 15 minutes. The fact that I've known Ida for years, right? And she helped us network. She helped us introduce. She helped us, get invited to the founder dinner, the founder, whatever, before she ever even invested. That is amazing of her. But I got to tell you, I see stuff like that all the time from women. To be clear, from women. Now, are there men out there doing that? Probably, but I don't know them. The people I know helping founders, making this network really make sense, like collaborating, are women. And I'm so grateful for that. And I hope that other people feel that I've been able to do that for them as well, because it's the only reason that I'm still here and still sane, to be frank.
I love that. And the power of women is something that we have to hold on to very, very tightly. I actually agree. I have known some men that have been helpful, but the women have, for me as well, far and beyond been significantly more helpful than men. All right, guys, this is going to wrap up our Q&A session, which means it's time for what I consider one of our exciting sections, which is the rapid fire questions. I hope you guys are ready. You're just going to spitball things off the top of your head, whatever comes first. KJ, you are up first with what motivates you to keep going and why?
A couple things. I will say the first is my daughter. I gave birth last year to a beautiful baby girl, and she's everything. And I was on the fence about having kids for a long time, and I know I'm not going to have any more. Okay, let's be clear. But she is just so excited and curious. And, that motivates me to keep doing. When I don't want to do it anymore, I remember I've got a baby girl watching me. She's curious. She wants to know what's going on in there. I see you put on this makeup. I want to know what it is. And that motivates me to keep going, because I want her to feel like when it's her time to do whatever, chase whatever her dream is, she can do it. She knows what that looks like. And then the second thing I'll say is my team. I love watching the people on my team grow whenever they I just promoted one of my people from coordinator to manager. And she has just blown me away. She has blown me away with her presentations, her pitches, her proposals. We're doing an email campaign right now that is just like crushing it. And it was completely her brainchild. So anyway, I that motivates me. Again, when I start to feel like I'm over this, I'm so tired, like I don't need to be this stressed, I look at my team, I see how much they're growing, how much they're doing, and that motivates me a lot.
All right, rapid fire questions continue. Now with you, Ida, what are 3 skills people actually need to be a successful entrepreneur?
Oh, absolutely. Grit, resilience, and stamina, because it is a long road. Everybody hears the overnight successes, and it sounds like it's overnight. It is not. It is a lonely road. And when you are at the top, when you are the founder, when the buck stops with you, there's very few outlets that you have. So having that kind of the grit, the resilience, and the stamina to be able to carry on in the good and the bad times is what I consistently see when I look across our portfolio of founders, what they have in common, despite the differences in the types of businesses they're building.
I would agree definitely with all 3 of those things. All right, KJ, back to you for our rapid fire questions. What time of day are you most productive, especially now because you got that little one?
I've always been a morning person, and I still am. I do my best thinking in the morning. I'm fresh. After about 5 o'clock, will I still work? Sure. Will it be as good? No, because my brain has started to turn off. So I'm morning for sure.
All right, morning person all the way. Ida, what is your favorite life hack?
Oh, favorite life hack? Food delivery services. Like, and living in Manhattan, I'm very lucky of like high quality ones. So while I can cook, yes. Is that the best use of my time? No. So yes, high quality food delivery services, which I feel very fortunate living in Manhattan. I have access to many.
Oh my God.
I'm not gonna lie, that's it.
I love that so much. I always joke, I'm like, oh my God, DoorDash gets so much of Culture Banks' money, like on a monthly basis.
There's so many.
Probably be better if we just like put them on payroll or something. It might be cheaper at this point. Just throwing it out there. All right, KJ, back to you. What is the one app you would say that you cannot live without?
Yeah, I know it's going to be a little crazy, but I'm going to go ahead and say TikTok. I love TikTok. It is just, I think, one of the best and most entertaining social media outlets out there right now. And I'm making a big bet on it for Mented as well. We're spending a lot of time making a lot of content, but I think it's important, and it's just so gosh darn entertaining. When I only have if I have a 10-minute break and I just need to breathe, I go to TikTok, and I honestly feel better. And I feel like there are a lot of social media apps that if you spend 10 minutes on them, make you feel worse. TikTok has figured it out in a way that just makes me feel better.
Oh my God. That was so unexpected, KJ.
I know.
I know what I thought you were going to say at all. I didn't know what you were going to say, but I didn't know it was going to be TikTok. All right, something out there. Hey, it helps you decompress. That is important as a founder. All right, Ida, the next question is for you. What would you say is the one book that changed your life?
Oh my goodness. That's a really tough one. And I think the one book that consistently comes back to me and has sat with me even after a few years away from reading it was Paul Kalanithe's When Breath Becomes Air. And he was a neurosurgeon that got diagnosed with cancer. And he writes about all his life, and when you know you're going to die, how do you live life with intention? And then his wife ends the book for him after his passing. So there's I lost my parents and my sister. So I think that the living life urgently and with intention, and books that have that in it always kind of stick with me. So yeah, that's the one that when I think about books that have stuck with me, it's that one.
I'm gonna have to read that book. I never even heard
It's
of this.
yeah, it's short, it's really powerful. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna look into this after this session. This is gonna be our final rapid fire question. It's out to both of you guys because at Culture Banks, we love combining music with market-driven business news. So we would be remiss if I did not ask, what is currently on your playlist? You have to go to it. It just puts you in the mood, gives you the vibes, all of that. KJ, what is that song?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be something by Jasmine Sullivan. Right now, Lost Ones is still a great song, but I'd say Jasmine Sullivan in general, she's my go-to when I need a vibe. She's all vibes, great voice and vibes. So
She is all vibes and a Grammy Award winner as of this year. So yes, okay, Ida, over to you. What are you listening to? I know you.
Well, as a Nigerian, on my playlist, like I literally when I looked at it, it's the Davido playlist, and it's just Afro beats and lots of his hit songs on there. And just when you feel like you want to move a little and just have a vibe, also a vibe. So that's what's on mine right now.
All right, there we have it. Who doesn't love some Afro beats as well? KJ, Ida, thank you both so much for joining us to talk about this igniting cultural capital, especially in the retail space. And you guys missed it because we weren't recording them, but we actually got a little makeup tutorial on setting spray before this whole thing kicked off. I probably should have been recording next time, everyone. And don't forget that we will be back next month as well, doing an igniting cultural capital session all around an artificial intelligence. Be sure to tune in to the Culture Bank's website. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter so that you can be up on this information. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.